Despite there being plenty time left in this transfer window, a lot of Newcastle fans, let's just say, are shitting their knickers at the lack of transfer activity after Mr. Sandro Tonali's touchdown. But if we look a little bit further afield, there isn't that much transfer activity across the other teams in the league. And what did Eddie Howe say after the Gateshead game, and what did it mean? It's all coming up in this video, Newcastle fans, so if you don't know what to do by now, do us a favour and stick around. Welcome back to another video on the black and the white banter, Newcastle fans. I hope you've all had a lovely weekend, because as I make this video, probably as I'm posting this video, it will be another Monday. The weeks are rolling into one another. If you were at the Gateshead game on Saturday, I feel sorry for you. I really do. It was nice to be back in the football, but that is probably where the enjoyment stopped. Just that one sentence, nice to be back. And by nice to be back, I mean the walk into the ground in the first 15 minutes of the game, maybe, because everything after that was absolutely shocking. The weather, the atmosphere, the stadium itself, and just generally the absolute washout that we saw as Storm Tonali absolutely terrorised Newcastle. Well, Gateshead, should I say. It even made the news.
Most of the afternoon, most Newcastle fans were enjoying their team's first game of pre-season. But little did they know that the rain that they were enjoying with laughs and cans of beer was soon to escalate beyond a crazy scale, with many unable to get home and friends, family and loved ones of supporters inside Gateshead Stadium still unsure of their whereabouts. The rain is not expected to stop, and if you have any information about any missing people still making their way home from the Gateshead Stadium, please get in touch. Chief Correspondent May Dubb, News at 10.
Yeah, my thoughts go out to all of those Newcastle fans who still have not been found and are still sailing home even as the weekend's ended, because that torrential rain was brutal. And if you haven't seen my match vlog, there is a match vlog. It's probably the shortest match vlog I've ever done, because the game was a pre-season fitness run around, and I was not speaking to any fan after that match for any reactions, because half of them didn't even stay to watch the second half. I don't think anyone really cared what was going on the pitch. But we did get a win, and, you know, Maximin got a run out. Some of the youngsters looked good. Apart from that fitness test, there wasn't anything we learnt from the game. There wasn't really anything to go into the next match. Rangers on Tuesday will be a different kettle of fish. That will be a bigger one. I am going to Rangers. I shouldn't be, because of holidays at work and because of finances with the United States trip in, like, what is 4 days' time. But I couldn't not go to 8,000, to a match where 8,000 Geordies are going to be taking over Glasgow, and we're going to a nightclub beforehand in the daytime on a Tuesday afternoon, because that's just what Newcastle fans do. So whack that subscribe and whack that like is going to be my next point, because there is lots of content to come in the next fortnight. Some of the weirdest content I will have ever created is to come when I touch down in the United States of America. Yeah. If you haven't watched any of my previous videos, that's the only reason I'm going to mention it as it's getting closer, because it is something to shout about, watching your team as far away in the world as that. The trip's coming together lovely. I'm driving in cars with fans I've never met across America. I've gone to tailgate parties. I'm going to pre-match parties with DJs. I'm staying in an apartment with a Newcastle fan I've never even met. It's crazy, but that's how I like to do these trips, is to meet loads of new people, and that's one of the reasons I'm going on it. I've met friends across the world through Newcastle who I still speak to now. My American friend came over for the Leicester and Brighton games, who I met in New York. Well, I met him in England. He's from New York. I've met him in New York, and I'm going to catch up with him again on this trip. It's a wonderful... So there's going to be lots of weird and wonderful content coming from the United States of America, and I've just ordered my flag. So that's definitely one to look out for. I don't do flags the normal way, let's just say. Not to everyone's taste, but you'll have to keep an eye out for that one. And one more little announcement before I get into this video. Sorry, I am rambling on this one. So if you are new to Black and White Banter and you've never watched one of these videos, I don't normally go on about other things before I get onto the topic this much. But I have just announced on my social media a brand new partnership with none other than FARSLEY Travel. They are a Yorkshire-based travel company, but they bleed black and white. The gentleman who runs the company is an absolute legend. He follows Newcastle home and away, and we've even got a little teaser trailer.
What would be your advice for any Newcastle fans looking to go on holiday this summer?
You know, Matthew, I've been doing this a lot of years, and it's the same advice to all Newcastle fans every year. Shirt to the airport. NUFC tats out. If it's a 6 a.m. flight, a selfie with a pint in the bar. Get to resort, get the flag out, selfie on the balcony, hashtag Geordie's on tour. Get yourself to the Geordie bar and make sure it's got a dodgy signal to watch the match. You can't go wrong.
You can follow FARSLEY Travel on Facebook now, because let's face it, those Champions League away days aren't too far away.
That's right. We are going up in the world, and if that hasn't tickled your fancy, then nothing will. So it's black and white banter across all of the social media. That's where that sort of content gets churned out, and it's normally humorous and not very often serious. And one last announcement for when this video does go out, if it's a little bit too late or not, I don't know. I'm going to be going on John Sinclair's YouTube live on Monday, probably the day that I'm posting this video, out at 8 o'clock, to talk about why I got into YouTube and all. I don't really know. He's just asked me to go on. We're going to have a big crack. So that'll be good as well, so tune in for that one. So, I can finally get on to tonight's topic. Lots of Newcastle fans in this window, very similar to previous windows, if I'm being honest with you, since the takeover, are already voicing their frustration at the lack of transfers. Now, what this makes me want to do is pull a little chunk of my hair out. No, it's not coming out. That's what it makes me want to do. Because if I'm going to be totally blunt and totally honest with you, it's a fucking joke. I'm sorry, it is. Yes, we need to have ambition now that we've got new wealthy owners. Yes, we've just qualified for the Champions League, so our expectations are naturally going to keep changing when we get to cup finals and top 4 league finishes. I am not discrediting that at all, because without ambition as a football club, what are you? You're a club owned by Mike Ashley. We don't want to go back to them days. But what you need to take stock of, Newcastle fans, anyone who has this really bitter, frustrated opinion on social media, mainly Twitter that I've seen, and Luke Edwards did an article on it, and he played down the article in the days after. I'm not a huge Luke Edwards fan by any means, and he basically said how Newcastle are getting this summer wrong with regards to the preparation for the Champions League. Bearing in mind, I think he did that article on what was like the 11th of July, with a month and a half of the transfer window left. It's ridiculous, and I'm going to tell you one reason and one comparison that we need to make. Look around the rest of the Premier League, Newcastle fans. Look around. Man United, yes, they've brought in Mason Mount. They're going to be wanting to do more business than that. Very similar to us bringing in Tonali, who, by the way, was an absolutely fantastic bit of business so early in the window, one of the best young midfielders in Europe. Liverpool have barely signed anyone. Arsenal, of course, they've brought in a couple, with one of them being a major one, but that's because they wanted Declan Rice from a long, long time ago, so they've obviously got that one over the line early. Chelsea, by Chelsea standards, haven't done much transfer business. And then you go a little bit further down. Yes, Aston Villa have been linked to a couple of big players, but they haven't done loads of business. There are no teams this early in the window getting all of the business wrapped up. Would it be perfect for Newcastle to sign every player early so we can bed them in pre-season? Of course it fucking would. Do you not think Dan Ashworth and Eddie Howe and Darren Eales and Mad Dog Tyndall, all of these people don't want every player in for the Rangers game, for the Gateshead game, to bed them in training? That's only going to mean we start our season stronger. But unfortunately, that's an ideal world. I also want to go and put a lottery ticket on tomorrow and get the guaranteed winner numbers, so I can piss off to America for longer than a week to watch Newcastle play and stay over there. This is all ideal world stuff, and we are living in a modern day footballing environment where there are so many technicalities. There are mind games between agents and players. There are mind games between clubs. There are so many different things that are actually meaning we as a club are now doing smoke screens to pretend we're interested in players, to throw journalists and media off. Barella from Inter Milan, apparently we were never interested in him. That was a smoke screen to go and grab Tonali. I think it's wonderful from a strategic point of view from Newcastle's hierarchy from Ashworth and co. I think it's a brilliant way of doing things. But that's what world we are living in now, because if one team gets a sniff that we're after a player, they're thinking, oh, should we be after them? And it becomes a minefield, and transfer windows are becoming more and more complicated. They really, really are, because that's how football's changing with regards to from a financial point of view. So so to expect us to have all of our business done early drives me up the wall. Literally gets me more angry than when I was stood in that pissing down rain of Gateshead on Saturday. With the Geordie tropical thunderstorm. It really, really does, and we just need to stay a bit more patient. So all I'm going to say on that one, before I touch on what Eddie Howe said after the game, anyone frustrated by who we haven't brought in yet, would I like to see more players? Yes, but let's have a conversation 3 weeks from now. Aston Villa game will be on the horizon 3 weeks from now, I think, if the dates off the top of my head are right. If we've brought nobody in by then, let's have a conversation. Let's discuss. Let's sit back down and do another video. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Now, Eddie Howe was asked from Sky and Keith Downey after the game against Gateshead, and I've watched it a couple of times, body language, just to look at things a little bit more about transfers. He admitted we're not close. So Harvey Barnes, that's the reason I didn't do a video on Harvey Barnes. That went quiet very quickly after that Friday firework went off. Couldn't breathe on YouTube for seeing the word Harvey. Literally. It was everywhere, and that went quiet, and I'm seeing that a common theme now with transfer links. So that one died down very fast. He said we're not close. As far as I understand, Harvey Barnes is the one we are pushing for next. And then when he was asked about the squad, he said he's content with the business he's done so far in this window, this early, but as it gets closer, he's aware that he needs players in, and that's when almost suggesting it becomes a little bit worrying if it gets closer. And I don't think he's wrong. And did I see and sense frustration in Eddie Howe in that press conference? Not necessarily, but with Eddie Howe, he's proved as a manager, as much as we love the man, to be a little bit of a cheeky so-and-so and tell lies. We've seen it. He's lied about players being injured. He's lied about transfers in the past. He's known for it. And I think as a football club, we are keeping our cards, and I've said it on previous videos, so close to our chest that a journalist isn't going to get a sniff out of Eddie Howe. He's not even going to get a drop of Eddie Howe's truth saliva dripping from his mouth. He's not. So no matter what he says, I take it with a pinch of salt. I don't even take it with a pinch. I take it with a little Salt Bay dash. So you can take what you want from Eddie Howe's press conference now. Do I think, moving forward, that Eddie Howe wants 4 or 5 players? Of course he does. We are not equipped, in my opinion, as we stand at the moment, for a Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup campaign. We're not. We've still got so much dead wood to get rid of, which Eddie Howe was asked about players going out. No one imminent. Hendrick's not going to get a sniff next season. He's not even training with the squad. Mankio, he played on Saturday, but that was just Eddie Howe filling the numbers, so I don't look into the starting lineup against Gateshead. He'll probably be out. Darlow is going to want first team football because we've just added give Karius a new contract. Dubravka could demand a little bit of money, get us some money in. He's obviously not happy, and after his Man United, the way he went on about that move, good riddance to him. That's just my personal opinion. There's lots of players. The point I'm making is to leave. That will generate some money, but whether Newcastle are in a position to just boom out of the water and spend a lot of money, we don't know. I watched Craig Hope's analysis after the Gateshead game. He doesn't know. He's made ballsy opinions on transfer budgets and he's got it wrong. Or it looks like he might have got it wrong. Nobody knows. Are we in a position where, as the window goes on, we are going to boom and chuck some money at it? I think we're going to be somewhere in the middle. I don't think we're going to see an Isak before the window's closed for 60 million. But I would be gobsmacked if this hierarchy do not support Eddie Howe and this Champions League push that we've found ourselves in a lot quicker than expected by giving him a bit of money. Now, financial fair play, we don't know. We don't know what we have. We don't know what we don't have. We don't know what our restrictions are. So I'm not going to discuss that one. But Eddie Howe is almost going to be his own biggest enemy. And what I mean by that is we have got the Champions League so much faster than Al-Rumian, possibly pronouncing him wrong, Mr. Chairman, I apologise. Gadusi, Stavely, none of us as a football club or fans expected us to be in the Champions League after a year and a half of Eddie Howe being in charge. And here we are, and we probably haven't grown in stature from a revenue point of view, from a global branding point of view, from a sponsorship point of view. I mean, the wheels are in motion with Seller and such like, to be able to support a serious Champions League push with the league in mind. And which one Eddie Howe prioritises is a different video for a different day, and it's an interesting topic, Premier League or Champions League. But he's almost been his biggest enemy, because we will be in more restricted than your Liverpools, your Chelseas, your Man Uniteds, who are in European competition. Not Chelsea. Ignore me on that one. They finished about 16th, didn't they, last season? But your Liverpools, your Arsenals, your Man Cities, these all are playing European football, but they have a much bigger budget to be able to spend because of that stature of club on all areas from an operational point of view. So Eddie Howe wants the money quickly. He wants to keep growing, but football does not allow you to have a bottomless pit anymore. And whether we can maybe restructure payments across 3, 4, 5 years to sign players, I don't know. I'm not the money man or the technical, operational expert when it comes to football. No, I don't think. What I'm reading in newspapers and on social media from journalists is I don't think anyone is. Financial fair play has a different spin every single time I open my phone. So I did sense a little bit of frustration in Eddie Howe's press conference in the fact that he knows that we need players, and he's actually saying that, and that's a ballsy statement, because Eddie Howe is a very reserved manager and very smart, and like he just keeps everything to himself. He says everything by the book, if you want to look at it that way, when he's with journalists, and that's one of the things I love about him. So for him to say that it would be a bit worrying further down the line, squad-wise, if we haven't added numbers with the Champions League in mind, is telling you that Eddie Howe is not content with his squad. Let's see how it pans out. As I said earlier, let's have a conversation in a couple of weeks. We know Howe wants players. I think we're going to get players. Whether it's going to be the money that some Newcastle fans who apparently aren't going to be happy unless we've spent 300 million. You know, remember that old term, we don't demand a team that wins, we demand a team that tries. I think it's now, as I shared on social media not too long ago, we don't demand a team that wins, we demand a team that signs Kylian Mbappe and spends 300 million. That's what I'm sensing on social media. But let's just see. Not many teams are doing business yet. It's a long old slog of transfer window. Let's reassess once that Aston Villa game rears its head. But Newcastle fans, let me know if you've seen Eddie Howe's press conference after the Gateshead game. Drop down, let me know what you think. Are you one of these frustrated fans that thinks we should have 6 players in by now and that it's really worrying that we don't? If so, let me know. I may be saying negative things, but I am here only creating YouTube content to have debates. I could stick ads on and get a little bit of money from YouTube. I turned that off a couple of weeks ago because it doesn't overly interest me. I'm doing this because I love it and I want your opinion because of that. And if you've stuck around this long, drop that like, drop that subscribe, and make sure you touch down for some juicy American content next week. But not just America, Glasgow. We're in 8,000 Geordies invading Glasgow on Tuesday. So you don't want to miss that, because I am finally getting on the away bus with the crew who I've missed so much for a proper Geordie away day. I'll see you on that video, which will probably be my next one. However that.